Everyone, I hope you're doing really well. It's the 31st of May 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and we're going to be looking at evidence in relation to the cell towers again and why you need to disable them, and also a police report that I submitted yesterday after a suspicious incident which suggests they may be trying to silence me. So I need to do this to try and protect me so that I can ensure I keep going with the exposure of the truth. And this is the police report. And it was timed yesterday at just before 11 o'clock last night. And the reference number is Bravo Charlie Alpha 52105 25 0155 India Romeo 04. And the first few parts are just redacted private details. And it happened yesterday between 14:20 and 14:40. And although it happened in Scotland, I've done a Metropolitan Police report because they are the ones now receiving most of my reports. And of course, they can liaise with other police forces. And it states, I am a former Dorset police constable, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable and verifiable evidence of decades-long government fraud involving the forgery of the Companies House register and documents. It is linked to a taxation system and will be worth trillions, and former White House official Catherine Fitz has recently confirmed this to be true as I released my evidence regarding a doomsday apocalyptic deception. Now, just to add to that, I've already done another video on this. So as I was releasing my information evidence, a former White House official came out on various articles, and claimed that $21 trillion had been defrauded from the masses and funneled into an underground doomsday tunnel system for the rich and famous. They practically admitted what I've been saying in relation to the fraud, but they are trying to use a falsified apocalyptic deception to maintain control over those that are assisting them with their crime, which is the Freemasons. And there's 6 million Freemasons according to the research, and of course everyone they may know that's part of this as well. So there's a lot of people involved in this, but they are all ultimately being deceived and will be victimized. Reading on, it said, it has been confirmed as being linked to a satanic cult with Companies House and what appears to be a very sinister plans involving cell towers, a false publicised solar cycle risk, and an ultimate satanic attack on creation itself using CERN, the Hadron Collider, and similar facilities. And just to add to this, everything I say is supported by overwhelming evidence. Okay, we all need to understand the truth in this. They've even got a company called the Satanic Temple United Kingdom on Companies House that links back into everything that I've been exposing. And CERN, the Hadron Collider, all of the evidence converges on that, okay, as a sinister attack against everybody, even those involved in the fraud, and also on the cell towers and the other subjects that I've been talking about here. Reading on, it says, all evidence surrounding the cell towers confirms that criminal entity companies have been deliberately used for their implementation and prevents accountability and liability for the risks they pose. At around 1400 hours on the 30th of May 2025, so yesterday, I parked up in a remote secluded side road intending to disable a nearby cell tower. On entering the main road, again on foot and walking a short distance, a car appeared to almost skid after they went past me and pulled suddenly into the road I had just parked. They remained stationary for a few seconds and I thought nothing of it before they drove further into the road towards the vehicle where I lost sight of them. Now, in relation to me disabling the cell tower, I was going to do that by angle grinding the lock off out on the main power supply, switching it all off, and then filling that area with insulation foam before potentially putting another padlock back on. So as long as you are minimising the likely risk of harm to individuals, okay, and you have an honest held belief that they are a risk to you or property, and you honestly believe that had the companies known they were harmful, they would allow and consent to you doing any damage, then you are allowed to disable that property. And at the end of the day, remember, they're using criminal, fraudulent companies. This is their own government, which shows they know the risks and they are deliberately going ahead and trying to harm humanity. And we really do need to act on this very soon, because the solar cycle peaks supposedly in July and goes on till the end of this year. So we have to consider that they're going to try and utilize that as a cover-up for the harm caused from these cell towers, because they both emit electromagnetic radiational frequencies according to the research. So reading on. So we had this vehicle, just to recap, this vehicle came past me as they'd seen me, it appears as though they suddenly almost skidded off the road and turned into a side road where I was parked, waited there for a while, and then they went down and I lost sight of them towards my vehicle. I didn't think anything of it at that time. Reading on, it says, I could not find a way to reach the cell tower as I had intended, so went back towards my vehicle and saw the same car parked up nearby at the entrance to what appeared to be leading to someone's house. I saw two people exiting the car and they started to walk towards my vehicle across a bridge over a stream. As they appeared to notice me, they hesitated and stopped on the bridge. I entered my vehicle and watched them from inside, and they would not have been able to see me due to the reflection. They looked uneasy as they appeared to turn their attention to the stream, but only after they had realised I noticed them. The man used his phone to appear to take photographs or videos of the stream initially and very quickly, and then spent far more time pointing his phone towards my vehicle, even though there was nothing to see in its direction. They exchanged words, and whilst on the bridge, the male tried to make it appear that he was consoling the female as she suddenly tried to appear saddened for some reason. After a couple of minutes or so, the couple got back into the car and I started recording it discreetly from my window. The registration of the vehicle was, and I've made a mistake here, so I've just made a second report to correct it. Delta Victor 25 Hotel Kilo, but there is a Yankee, a Y there. After stopping on the bridge briefly, the car drove in the same direction that it come from, and the female appeared to focus on my vehicle as they drove past, but did not appear upset at all, and she had tried to appear when they thought I was watching them. I found this whole incident extremely suspicious and suspect that these people have been tasked to do something to me or my vehicle, which I suspect would involve some assistance by the police in being able to locate me. They had appeared to stop suddenly and hesitated after seeing me. The road is secluded, a dead-end remote location, and the stream is very insignificant, with them having stopped by it just after my vehicle when the road is much longer, and then having seen me focus more attention on my van than anything else. I would describe both the male and female as being Middle Eastern in appearance, 30 to 35 years old. The male had a black beard and moustache and was large build. The female was wearing what appeared to be some kind of hijab, covering most of her head and body. I have made other reports of what I suspected to be an attempt on my life and other perceived possible threats, including a car bombing. The police have failed to respond to any of these, and multiple reports of irrefutable evidence of fraud involving them, and that knowingly facilitates crimes against children, conflicts and terrorism. In fact, I did have one response, and all it was from one of my former colleagues called Jay Griffin, who said, please can you stop mentioning Deborah Fleming. Nothing about the reports of the very obvious fraud and child trafficking and all of these other things I'm talking about. And at the bottom here I've just put that I have video evidence in relation to the car and female, which we're going to look at in a moment. And here's a document that I've created in relation to the incident. Now, I know it's a lot of effort in relation to this, but I've got to really show all of the information when I'm talking about things and try and support it as best as I can, because we are in a very serious situation and I need to ensure that I can keep going to expose the truth in this. So here's some maps of this location, and the yellow cross in the right is where my vehicle was parked. The blue cross on the left is me walking up the road trying to find a second cell tower, and the car came from the north, down from the south. That's the red cross. Suddenly, after it seen me, it appeared, almost skidded off the road and pulled into the turning which goes to my vehicle. They hesitated and stayed there for a while before driving off down towards it. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Here's a satellite view just showing where the two cell towers are, and my vehicle was parked where the yellow cross is. A cell tower on the right is where we're going to be talking about evidence linking to Everything Everywhere Limited Company, and the other cell tower up at the top there is the one that I couldn't get to before I saw the car. Here's a map showing where the vehicles were parked. So my vehicle is where the yellow cross is, and they parked their car where the red cross is, where there's an entrance to a house. And I walked down the road from the left, and they started coming over the road towards me, and that's when everything happened that I explained. Here's a screenshot taken from the video that I've taken. We're going to look at in a minute. You can see the time and date, 30th of May, 1437. And these are screenshots taken to confirm the registration, which, as I've said, I've done a second police report with the correction with the Y in it. And this is the female in the car. Does not appear upset at all and was paying a lot of attention to my vehicle as they passed my vehicle. Let's have a look at the video that I took. Now, I'm not too sure if they stopped here because they were contemplating how they deal with the situation, not expecting me to come back to the vehicle so quickly, potentially. And then they drive past. You can see them paying attention to my vehicle. Now, if these people get to see the video, please contact me. If there was nothing untoward with what you were doing, please contact me and explain, and I will apologise in person. Now, obviously, there's limited checks that I can do on the vehicle, but the report on the left suggests it was a Nissan, which it does appear to be, and it was registered in March, and it's a hybrid electric vehicle. On the right suggests that it is registered in Shrewsbury. Now, the cell tower that I mentioned had Everything Everywhere Limited on it, and some of you have probably heard of this company. It's also EE, which is a very well-known mobile phone company, and Everything Everywhere is quite significant in itself, bearing in mind what I'm talking about, CERN and a complete satanic inversion of everything, or destruction of everything, really. I'm going to look at the company's house records now in relation to Everything Everywhere, which I know is already connected because I've seen it before when I've done my research in relation to the directed energy threat months ago. However, let's have a little look at it. So on the left is just within company's house, typing in Everything Everywhere, and it brings up all of these different companies. And we're going to be looking at EE Pension Trustee Limited that comes up. And here are its previous names. You can see one of them at the top was Everything Everywhere Pension Trustee Limited. And at the very bottom, so it started in 2000, changed its name not long after the World Trade Center disaster in March 2002, and then it changed its name again in 2011. Now, this is becoming a very significant year. It's when Jimmy Savile died, who is a very important figure in relation to this, very closely associated to the Flemings. Okay, and he died in 2011, but 2012, the year after, is when CERN, the Hadron Collider, supposedly discovered the Higgs boson or God particle. This is the same year that the Mayan calendar ended, and where a meeting was held with Jeffrey Epstein and Stephen Hawking, who was studying the effects of black holes, etc. And they held that meeting with people from the CERN Hadron Collider. And you can see it changed its name again in 2013, the year after that. And it is a criminal fraudulent entity company. When you go into the filing history, you'll see the incorporation document. The oldest document, it has Swift Incorporations and Jordan's Limited. Those of you who followed my evidence will know why that's so important. But if it's the first time you've seen this, if you search Vistra Limited, you will see that it's one of its previous names was Jordan's Limited, but they've got a hidden name on the incorporation document. So if you go into the filing history of that company, you'll see Hammerplag Limited. Well, that's never been registered. And not only has it not been registered, but they've forged the register. They've falsified the register and put a false name of Jordan's and Sons Limited instead of Hammerplag Limited. And importantly, this is the same two companies that started Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, where all of this started for me, and where I was removed for refusing to file forged bank documents. And the person that initiated that removal was someone from the Fleming family. And going into that company, EE Pension, we have Anthony Gara. And think about it, pensions, okay? So if you have all of these pension pots and insurance monies and things like that all collated, and you then remove vast amounts of people, that means there's unclaimed pensions. So it means there's a vast amount of money there that can be stolen, taken through the system of crime and fraud. And many of these people running our world now are irrational, because you have potentially the addiction to the drugs or the addiction to sex, which is a huge part of this. This whole system of fraud deliberately facilitates drug trafficking and criminal sex trade activity, including paedophilia. This is deliberate by our governments, everybody. Anyway, going back to the document, this director links to Orange Personnel Communication Services Limited. Some of you would have seen a recent video or document talking about a cell tower that I visited, which had that exact company on it, or at least a company similar to it that came up with it when you searched it. But the actual company on the cell tower didn't even exist. And this is what they're doing, everybody. So this means you can go and disable this technology, because they are deliberately and knowingly using criminal, fraudulent, non-existent companies, because they know the harm that they are causing to you, and very likely could increase the power vastly to significantly expedite that harm to you. So this is just showing a screenshot from that other document to show it's exactly the same company that I've just shown you. So it links all of the cell towers together, and they are all centralized. The whole system, everybody needs to understand this. The whole system is centralized to a small number of people linked to a satanic cult. This is all supermarkets, all accountants, all solicitors, all insurance companies. The evidence is there to show this is true, and it's a criminal system they have in place. So Peter Berry on the left links to Cable and Wireless Pension Trustee Limited. Okay, because the threat from directed energy is from all cables that emit the electromagnetic radiation, or all technology, shall we say, so smart meters, etc. And Cable and Wireless Pension Trustee Limited on the right, you can see it was started in 1986, and changed its name in 1990. Well, this is a year before the World Wide Web was created, and the World Wide Web was created for CERN, the Hadron Collider, and its creator links back in multiple ways to Dorset, and in fact they lived in the same town as Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal, Wimborne in Dorset, and they link via a company to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited very, very quickly. So the World Wide Web is key to all of this. It links to CERN, and of course the pornography through that World Wide Web has enabled them to control people through the paedophilia to get to where they are now, whether that be top officials, chief police officers, or presidents, or prime ministers, or MPs, etc. But on the incorporation document for this company we've just been looking at, okay, the Cable and Wireless Company, we have Mavis June Latter, an actual name. Okay, this is important where we move forward now to make you realise it's all centralised. So Mavis June Latter on this document. Now we're going to look at the incorporation document for Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the company I was removed from as a director for refusing to file forged bank documents that had been produced by the bank. Okay, I also acquired 2 emails from the force I was reporting this to, my previous police force, inadvertently confirming they were allowing those forged bank documents to be produced by the banks. Okay, so here's Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and you can see Swift Incorporations Limited. We're going to come to that in a minute. And then below you can see Jordan's Limited, a criminal fraudulent entity company. And Jordan's was created in 1965, the year before the foundation of the Church of Satan. So this is Swift Incorporations on the document. This is the incorporation document for Swift Incorporations Limited. You can see at the top, and you can see exactly the same name, Mavis June Latter. This isn't even the same company, it's the same person. This same name connects to Harrods and what appears to be an infiltration of the Church of Satan around the same time as the murder, or the death, shall we say, as Lady Diana, or the Princess of Wales. Exactly the same name linking to Harrods. And of course, Harrods links to the Al Fayed family, and they are Egyptian. So moving forward, within the EE Pension Company, you have Colin Caldwell on the left, and they link to Everything Everywhere Limited. Within that company, name changes on that company, Everything Everywhere Limited. You can see they started in 2012. Remember what we've been talking about, 2012, with the importance and its tying into CERN. It then changed its name after that year, okay, 2013, and then changed its name a second time. Okay, and you can see, and that was in 2013, and they changed it to EE Limited before changing it again in 2013. And what we're going to look at now is there's a person with the surname Fleming within EE Pensions, so very likely or potentially related to the Fleming family that I'm talking about. On the left, a further search within Companies House of Everything Everywhere brings up EE Limited. Bearing in mind we've just been talking about it. Well, here's EE Limited, which started in 1989. This is the year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN, the Hadron Collider. Okay, it's the same year. And remember, EE Limited we've just seen on as a previous name on the previous document. And here you can see, for the previous company, here you can see the name changes. So it started in 1989. It changed its name again in 1992 at the bottom here. Well, that's important because that's when they were starting to initiate the electronic register for Companies House, which is how they've committed the fraud, because they've falsified the electronic register against the documents. However, it's ironic because that is also how the evidence is now being acquired to expose them fully. Looking further up, you can see the name changes in 1999. Before the World Trade Center disaster, and then in 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster in April 2002. And on the incorporation document we have a name of Howard Thomas. Now this is important because remember, these names make the links very quickly, and this name, as is Mavis June Latter, I suspect are either false names or made up names, false names or stolen identities as part of this international fraud. And this is what they did with, or appeared to have done with, Barbara Khan, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that name. So, and this is deliberate by our governments, okay, because there's been no verification so that this can all be allowed to happen. No verifications of people's names or the addresses when they start the companies up. And just below the address here, you can see this bit of writing here. This is in relation to Howard Thomas. It says that they do solemnly and sincerely declare that they are, not a solicitor, a person named as a director or secretary of the company. Okay? But they are not registered. You can see this here within the company, gone into it, and you can see they are not registered because this is alphabetically listed in this particular section. So they have omitted the name from the document deliberately. This is fraud and crime because the secretaries and directors need to be registered with the Companies House register. And that name, Howard Thomas, is important because it links throughout the research that I've done in relation to other cell towers and linking into CERN. And I'm just going to show you some quick evidence of this. So this is the document in relation to the helicopter crash on the 10th of April 2025, which is very, very important in relation to this, okay, because it supposedly caused the death of a CEO for Siemens, along with 3 of his children and his wife. I suspect it was staged and they didn't actually die. But Siemens is a company linking to CERN and to the cell towers and to my wife's family, which then connects to my family in Kent, to my sister's family in Gloucestershire, all tying together, linking to a satanic cult and crimes against humanity, and all going back into CERN. So this is just screenshots from that research, and you can see a name of Michael Blood, bearing in mind we're talking about the blood of children in all of this, linking to a company called Blood Blue Limited. And Blood Blue Limited then connected, further down here you can see it connected via, so this is research here, via my wife's previous employee where she was a nanny. And it links immediately to Atlas companies. Now Atlas links to the CERN Hadron Collider because Atlas was the experiment when they created the Higgs boson or God particle in 2012. Further down on the helicopter crash document, I'm just going to get to why we're talking about this. Howard Thomas. Because here you have a connection via the research from CERN, okay, from the Atlas companies. It links to Randolph Avenue Limited. And it has an address which is the same as the Fleming's address company for CAPB Limited. And here's CAPB Limited. And you can see it's the same address. Well, on that document, you can't see it very well here. Let's see if I've got it zoomed in. Yeah, I have. So I've zoomed in on a minute. But the link from that company that we just looked at, on its incorporation document, it has Howard Thomas, exactly the same name and the same address, linking to CAPB Limited, which is a company started in 2016, that dissolved in 2016, which is the same year that they held a satanic ritual at CERN, the Hadron Collider, at the Shiva statue, which is the goddess of creation and destruction. And the CAPB Limited Company changed its name, you can see just about on the bottom left here, on the 23rd of July 2001. That's the day before Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building, which was the first time it had ever changed hands. And it changed its name to CA Premier Banking, which stands for Cater Allen, which is the offshore element of Santander and Abbey National for private banking. And the money laundering is into offshore accounts, okay, in relation to this criminal system, and then enabling them to funnel that into whatever satanic agenda they have, which does appear to be everything I am talking about. So you've got that link now, Howard Thomas, and just to confirm, this is zoomed in on that company we were looking at, 118 Randolph Avenue. You can see Howard Thomas. Now, not long afterwards, on the helicopter crash document, it then makes connections to my wife's father, and then very quickly to Deborah Fleming. And as I've said, you then have very quick connections to my family in Kent and my sister's family in Gloucestershire to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. So EE Limited on the left, Julia Chain. Julia Chain links to Jewish Chronicle Limited. Now, they've deliberately made it appear as though the Jewish faith group are behind all of this, because they want this to fit the scripture of the end of times. Within the Christian scripture, it states that everyone will turn against Israel. But evidence I have suggests that Israel is not real and Jerusalem is not really there, and that it's very likely here in the United Kingdom. But we're going to come on to that another time. So we have this Jewish connection again coming in from this, a company that dissolved as I was exposing this. You can see on the right hand side there, 2nd of February 2023, and it's linked to the fraud. It's a fraudulent company, I believe. At the bottom it's got the Solicitors Law Stationery Society, which then links back into the fraud and back into Max Clifford, Jeffrey Epstein, etc., and the international child trafficking. Another company that same director we're linking to here. Okay, so we're just looking at the same directors companies, the Jewish Association for Business Ethics, and that company has its incorporation document here, and you can see Jordan's and Sons Limited. It appears to be a forged document because you would normally have the lines across here, and you have Jordan's and Sons, which, as you know, is Jordan's Limited, which links to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited and everything I'm talking about. And that's the same company that was started in 1965, the year before the Church of Satan was founded. And the same director links to Virgin Companies, Virgin Mobile Phone Telecoms Company. And on the helicopter crash, we had this bank. I'm just showing you here that dissolved, okay, in April. You can just about see it here, April 2025. As I'm exposing the fraud, even though it was started in 1970, the year before the Church of Satan. The year before the World Economic Forum. And you can see its previous names, lots of Virgin companies. And this was coming in from my wife's previous school that she went to. And it's a criminal entity company with the London Law Agency on the bottom. Same director. We're just going back again, looking at other companies with this director. They also have the Institute for Jewish Policy Research. And on the incorporation document, it has FS Moore. At the bottom, you can just see FS Moore. Now, the research surrounding FS Moore comes up on previous documents, and it links to Connor Burns on the left. And Connor Burns was the MP for Bournemouth, who was actually associating with my wife's nan, who went to the church where Deborah Fleming was linked to, called Christ Church in Westbourne in Dorset, which is not far from Bournemouth. So FS Moore links to Connor Burns. He's now resigned since I've been exposing this. So has the other MP for the area where Exbourne Manor is, called Tobias Elwood. And the chief constable that was for Dorset Police at the time of me making my initial report, Scott Chilton, actually resigned from the police on the same day that I mentioned him and released my evidence in relation to the Satanic Temple United Kingdom Company document. And on the incorporation document for this FS Moore Limited, okay, that I'd already acquired, it has letter type. Remember this because it becomes important. Letter type limited as we move forward. Now, FS Maude also linked to Evangelism Explosion Great Britain Company, which I had already linked to Deborah Fleming. Now, remember, Deborah Fleming was linked to the Church Network, and the Church Network are massively implicated in this satanic system and crimes against humanity and linking back into CERN. Completely evil. The whole system, okay, is completely inverted of moral conscience. And here we have Evangelism Explosion, Great Britain. And you can see the incorporation document, Evangelism Explosion, Great Britain in brackets, and at the bottom, FS More Limited. Quite an oldish company, I believe, 1975 is that? So I'm just showing you connections quickly to back into Deborah Fleming and into the Church Network. Back in within EE Limited, we have Safra Robin. They link to the Federation of Communication Services Limited. Remember, this harmful technology appears to have been implemented into communication services. And this company was started in 1992 on the right here. Well, again, remember that is the year that they started to initiate the electronic register for Companies House, which is how they've committed this fraud. On the left, you can see within EE Limited, Thomas Alexandra links to exactly the same company that had linked to the cell tower that I'd previously looked at, Orange Personnel Communication Services Limited. And back in with the EE company, we have Gregory Clark links to Cable and Wireless UK. Cable and Wireless UK was started in, again, 1992. And you can see they changed their name in February 2001. When they first had the name Mercury Communications Limited, changed it in February 2001. Okay, before the World Trade Center disaster, and then changed it again afterwards in February 2003. And it closed the year after CERN discovered the God particle in 2013. And on the incorporation document for it, we're just going to have a little look at this, some interesting information. So you've got an address in Belfast. You have a Right Honourable Lord linked into it. Okay, remember all of the lords, or certainly many of them, and the government are massively part of this satanic control. We have a lodge mentioned. Here we have a connection to Edinburgh in Scotland, where the oldest Freemason lodge is still based and active. Someone in Hemel Hempstead. And then you have lots of companies listed. Importantly here, sorry, it's sideways. You can see on the left-hand side, third from the left, Royal Opera House Trust. Well, that links now to the royal family and to the fraud massively in what I've been exposing. You see that cropping up a lot. You also have Jewish Care here, but Oxford Centre for Postgraduating Hebrew Studies. Okay, now Oxford's important. This is where obviously Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell lived. Okay, and they are key obviously to this international government fraud and the control of information. And when you research Ghislaine Maxwell, it links to a company, a German company that was started well before World War One, that then gained the ability right around the world to control all information through education, media, publishing, etc. And that enabled the ability to also manipulate scripture as well. On the same document, you can just about see it here, hopefully. See it on the furthest left-hand side, Space Time Systems Limited. Now that's important because the research surrounding CERN connects to Stephen Hawking's, and you can see this is a screenshot from CERN research. You can see Stephen Hawking's, professor, on the right here, and he links to a company called Space Time Publications. And through the research of him, it connects importantly to Nigel Leonard Blood, a name featured throughout the fraud that links almost immediately to the NHS. And of course, Deborah Fleming was the chief executive for the NHS for the Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset area, and became involved in my removal. On the left, within the wireless cable and wireless company, you have Robert Beveridge, links to Hampshire hospitals, bearing in mind what I've just said. And then you have links to the same director to Eclipse Film Partners. And this company dissolved in July 2024 as I was exposing them. all of this and the links to the child trafficking and fraud and paedophilia. And of course that will involve lots of sinister videos and films being made. And within that company, Jeremy Baker connects to the Close Film Sale and Leaseback LLP company. That has also dissolved in 2023, linking to the fraud. Well, that features on the research for the Satanic Temple United Kingdom coming in from it. You can see it here. The Close Film Sale and Leaseback 2004. That also dissolved in May 2024. And then it links into the Royal Television Society, back into the royal family. So that's just a screenshot showing you the Satanic Temple. Document research, which has already been publicised in separate videos. And then it links into the Invicta Film Partnership. And Betts Companies. Now, one of the directors that tried to remove me was Diana Betts from Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. And then it connects to, have I got it here? At the top. Owen Film Partnership. Now, Owens and Porter was the management company for Exmoor Manor, and Diane Betts attended a meeting with me to them when I was first establishing what was going on, and they resigned there and there on the spot, refused to answer any questions, and they linked to the Russian government. So I suspect this company is to do with Stephen Owens and their family, the Owen Film Partnership. If they're using correct details, of course, because there's many people will be using alias false names. And the company dissolved in January 2022, which is as I was starting to ask the questions about the finances. So I think this is what was triggering all these changes. So let's look at AstraZeneca UK Limited quickly. You can see the company name changes here. Started in 1998, 3 years before the World Trade Center. Changed its name in 1999. This is when Vladimir Putin, I think, either became the president of Russia or something similar. He changed his, got an important position there, and he's massively implicated in this. And you can see they changed their name again in 1999. And on the incorporation document, remember we said about Letter Plant Limited earlier? This was its first name, Letter Plant Limited, Swift Incorporations Limited, and Jordan's Limited. Letter Plant Limited was on the document linking to Connor Burns, and this shows you how closely it's all connected with them sharing company names and moving them around, changing directors, removing records, falsifying documents, falsifying the actual register to commit their satanic crimes against humanity. And interestingly, on the right, after I saw a video, I checked this and confirmed it. So if you take the word AstraZeneca and input it like this into a translation, it means a road to death in Latin, or from Latin to English. So I had a little play around with it, and when you research Exmoor Manor, it comes up with I stay out of the water. Now this is very interesting because I've been talking about floods, okay, and the floods of the tunnel systems that they're claiming they've built for a falsified apocalyptic deception against everybody to eventually lead to utilising CERN to end or invert all of creation. And here we have this, I stay out of the water because that I have information and I believe those tunnel systems will be flooded, and I advised everybody to stay out of the tunnels and therefore stay out of the water. The only salvation for you is to come forward in full disclosure of the truth, true repentance, and a collective commitment to change, to bring about a new earth of transparency, truth and trust, equality and fairness for all. Now, when you search Exmoor by itself, it says that it means emanate. And when you put manna in backwards, remember inversion is huge in all of this. Maybe some of you have seen my inversion video. And you put manna backwards, it means the sun. So Exmoor, emanate, manna, the sun, emanate the sun. What does emanate mean? Emanate means issue or spread out from a source originate from, be produced by, to give out or emit. Emanate the sun. Now I'm talking about a falsified solar event, okay, where they're trying to make us believe that the sun is a threat to all of humanity. But I believe it's a deception, and they're manipulating that deception and that lie to maintain control, and that the real control and threat initially is from the cell towers, and that the solar flare or solar cycle event will be used to hide that threat and control that they use to remove potentially many people, whilst promising the salvation from those that are enabling them to maintain their element of control within the Freemasons as a deception. But ultimately, the complete inverted deception will be against those individuals as well, utilising CERN, the Hadron Collider, and in fact, it will be, according to all of the overwhelming evidence, be used against all of creation. Thanks very much for watching.